Four heroes of the West. In 1885, the West stood on the edge of change. Railroads carved through sacred land. Industry rose where freedom once ruled. And one family held the fate of it all. Four siblings with deep charisma named Arthur, the fearless natural leader, driven by honor and unshakable loyalty; James, the sharp strategist, calm under pressure with a mind built for war; Brian, the hot-headed warrior, powerful, passionate, and ruled by emotion; Eliana, the brilliant sharpshooter, composed, intelligent, and fiercely protective. Suddenly there came a messenger on horseback, exhausted and bleeding from a shallow wound. The railroad company's private militia is moving by night. By dawn, the final stretch of track will be forced through the valley, straight through sacred ground and into the heart of the settlement. Families will be driven out. The elders who tried to stop the construction were arrested. Some never returned. Brian explodes first. They don't get to steal our home. James remains calm. They already have men posted at every ridge. We rush in, we die. All eyes turn to Arthur. He says only one thing. We stand. Arthur stands at the edge of the ridge, hands resting on his belt, eyes fixed on the town. This is where they will come through, he says softly, pointing toward the eastern road. James kneels beside the dirt and uses a small stick to draw lines that he sketches. The road into town, the open market square, the narrow alley behind the grain store, the bridge over the shallow creek. This road is wide, he says. But this alley is not. And neither is the bridge. Brian watches in silence, his eyes moving between the map in the dust and the town below. Eliana stands slightly apart, listening to the wind and the distant sounds of life drifting up the hill, a dog barking, a hammer striking wood, faint laughter. They won't fight if they believe they are alone, she says gently. But they will stand. If they know we are standing with them. This is not a place for battle plans filled with blood. It is a place for preparation and protection. Their plan is clear, not to attack, but to control the moment. James explains it quietly. The bridge will slow the wagons. The narrow alley will separate their men. The open square will expose their leaders. No traps meant to kill, only movement, only pressure, only visibility. Brian adds what the map cannot show. The families live here, he says, pointing to the far side of the town. And here. He marks the safe paths. He marks where children can be guided away, where shopkeepers can shelter, where neighbors can gather together instead of hiding alone. Eliana's part of the plan is different. She will move through the town before anything happens. She will speak to the families, the shop owners, the teachers, the workers, not to stir fear, but to give them one simple truth. You do not stand today because you are brave, you stand because you are not alone. Arthur listens to them all. Then he speaks, quietly, firmly. We do not win by force, he says. We win by making sure no one is pushed into silence again. He looks down at the town. This ground is not defended by weapons. It is defended by people. The wind passes through the broken grass. The leaning signal post creaks. From this forgotten rail overlook. The four heroes finish planning something far stronger than a fight. They plan a moment where fear finally loses its place in the West. The first wagon appears at the edge of the eastern road just as the sun drops low behind the hills. Dust rises slowly. Too slowly. Arthur feels it before anyone speaks. They're early. James is already watching through the narrow gap between two leaning posts near the bridge. Not rushing, he says. They think the town is still quiet. The signal comes without a shout. A single hand raised. And the plan moves. The lead wagon reaches the creek bridge. The boards grown point one of the town wagons, already placed there by Brian and two farmers earlier that afternoon, rolls forward just enough to block the far end. Not a crash. Not a trap. A pause. Confusion spreads faster than fear. Men on horseback pull their reins. Voices rise. At the same time, three of the hired men try to cut through the narrow alley. Behind the grain store, they don't see James. He steps into view from the shadow and lifts a folded paper. The land record, the false claim, the altered boundary seal. Your employer sold land he never owned, James says calmly. The men stop. They look at the document. Then at each other. The fight hesitates. In the market square, Arthur walks forward alone. No rifle raised, no threat in his hands, only his voice. This town is not empty, he says clearly. Behind him, doors open, one by one, shopkeepers step out. Farmers, mothers, workers, not shouting, not running, just standing. A shout breaks near the bridge. One of the hired men jumps down and shoves the blocking wagon. Brian is there instantly. He pulls a frightened boy back from the edge of the street and places him safely behind a barrel. Then he steps between the man and a woman who has frozen in the open. You don't need to do this, Brian says. The man hesitates. Long enough. Eliana moves through the crowd like quiet light. She grips trembling hands. She nods to familiar faces. She meets frightened eyes with calm ones. You're safe, she whispers, over and over, and slowly, the crowd stops shrinking. It grows. A gun lifts, just one, the sound of it being cocked snaps through the square. The air tightens. Arthur does not move, he only looks at the man holding it. If you fire, he says softly, you will be the only one who does. Silence follows, heavy, public, unavoidable moments. James steps forward into the open square now. He raises the papers high. Federal review is already requested, he announces. Your contracts are void. A marshal will arrive. The lie collapses. The power behind the threat collapses with it. The leader looks around. No road is clear. No alley is useful. No crowd is afraid anymore. Only watching, only united. The gun lowers. A rider turns his horse, then another. The blocked wagon is pulled back, the bridge open, not for victory, for retreat. Dust drifts away with them, slow. Defeated, no cheer rises, no one runs after them. The town breathes again. Brian exhales and leans against the barrel for a moment. James folds the papers with shaking fingers. Eliana closes her eyes briefly, holding a woman who has started to cry from relief. Arthur looks at his family, at the people standing around them. And for the first time since the wagons appeared, he smiles. They didn't win by force. They won by refusing to disappear. When unity is in place, failure is not an option. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video for our world to be in unity.